The day before my daughter's wedding, I received a message that changed everything. She asked me to attend one final family dinner with her future in-laws. I thought it was a chance for both families to grow closer before the wedding. Instead, it became the most humiliating night of my life. They looked at me like I was just another old man who could not understand a single word they were saying. They whispered in Korean. They laughed at my expense. They believed I was completely clueless. They had no idea I had spent years living and working in Seoul. I stayed silent until the perfect moment. Then I stood up, raised my glass, looked every one of them in the eyes, and answered every insult in perfect Korean. What happened next changed the wedding forever. My name is Richard. I am 62 years old and I have only one daughter. Emily has always been the center of my world. After losing my wife to cancer when Emily was just 12, I promised I would never let her feel alone. I worked 2 jobs, missed holidays, sacrificed promotions. Everything I did was for her future. When Emily called to tell me she was engaged, I could hear the excitement in her voice. She had met Daniel 2 years earlier. He was intelligent, successful, and came from a respected Korean-American family. I was genuinely happy for them. Although Daniel always treated me politely, I noticed his parents kept a certain distance. Every family gathering felt formal. They smiled but rarely asked about my life. I assumed they were simply traditional and needed time. The day before the wedding, Emily sent me a text. "Dad, Daniel wants you at one last family dinner tonight. It means a lot to everyone." I smiled. I thought this was finally the moment our families would truly become one. I arrived early carrying an expensive bottle of wine and a small gift for Daniel's parents. The restaurant was elegant. Everyone greeted me warmly enough. Dinner began with polite conversation. We discussed the wedding schedule and future plans. Everything seemed normal. Then Daniel's mother leaned toward her husband and quietly spoke in Korean. Everyone except Emily laughed. I smiled politely. Maybe it was just a private joke. A few minutes later, Daniel's father whispered something else in Korean. More laughter. This continued throughout the evening. They believed I could not understand a single word, but I understood every sentence. 30 years earlier, I had worked in Seoul for nearly 8 years as an international engineer. During those years, I learned Korean fluently. I spoke it every day. Even after returning home, I continued reading Korean books and watching Korean news to keep my skills sharp. At dinner, I heard every insult. She dresses well, but you can tell he comes from a simple background. He probably thinks expensive wine makes him look sophisticated. Emily deserved someone from a better family. The old man has no idea we are talking about him. They laughed quietly after every comment. Emily noticed something felt strange. "Dad, are you all right?" I smiled. "Everything is fine, sweetheart." Inside, my heart was breaking. It was not because strangers insulted me. It was because they were insulting the father of the bride in front of my own daughter. I could see Daniel looking uncomfortable. He understood exactly what his parents were saying, yet he remained silent. That silence hurt almost as much as the insults. Dessert arrived. The waiter poured champagne for everyone. Daniel's father stood up and welcomed both families. He thanked everyone for coming. When he finished, I slowly stood. I picked up my glass. The room became quiet. I looked directly at Daniel's parents. Then in perfect Korean, I began speaking. "Thank you for inviting me tonight. Families should always speak honestly with one another, especially when they believe everyone understands." Every face at the table froze. Daniel nearly dropped his glass. His mother turned completely pale. I continued calmly. "For the past 2 hours I have understood every sentence you have spoken. Every joke, every insult, every word about my career, my background, my daughter, and me." No one moved. The silence felt endless. Then I smiled. Fortunately, my daughter was raised to judge people by their character and not by their wealth or status. That is something I hope future generations of this family will remember. Emily looked at me in complete shock. "Dad, you speak Korean?" I nodded. "For many years." Daniel finally stood. "Mr. Bennett, I am deeply sorry. I should have stopped this immediately." His parents lowered their heads. For the first time that evening, there was no laughter. Daniel's mother quietly apologized in Korean. I answered in Korean again. An apology only matters when it changes future behavior. The next morning, I wondered whether the wedding would even happen. Emily called early. "Dad, I need you here." When I arrived, Daniel and his parents were waiting. Both of them bowed respectfully. His father admitted pride had blinded him. He believed social status mattered more than kindness. He said hearing my response made him realize how wrong he had been. Daniel apologized again for remaining silent. Emily hugged me tightly. "Dad, Thank you for showing dignity instead of anger." The ceremony continued that afternoon. As I walked my daughter down the aisle, I felt peace, not because I had embarrassed anyone, but because respect had finally replaced arrogance. Months later, Daniel's parents invited me to dinner again. This time there were no whispered conversations, only honest smiles. We shared stories about our families. Sometimes we spoke English, sometimes we spoke Korean. The language no longer mattered. Mutual respect did. Life has taught me something important. Never underestimate someone because of age. Never assume silence means ignorance. The wisest person in the room is often the one speaking the least. People may forget your appearance, your income, or your profession, but they never forget the way you made them feel. Respect is earned through character, not status. The people who laughed that night expected to embarrass one old father. Instead, they learned a lesson that stayed with them forever. Sometimes the strongest response is not anger. It is quiet confidence delivered at exactly the right moment. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with your friends and family, comment your thoughts below, and subscribe for more emotional stories that remind us why kindness, respect, and dignity always win.